This is Bill's Camp Day recap. I'm Thad Brown along with Rachel Liber. Day 5 in the books. Boy, we got a lot to talk about today. Fisticuffs are back, not coincidentally, so are full padded practices, and DJ Moore putting on yet another show, one that I think we'll be talking about a lot during the preseason. But we'll start with the fights today, Rachel. There were 3 of them during the team periods. I was told, didn't watch today, the O-line, D-line one-on-one drills, but there was also a little pushing and shoving between Alec Anderson, shocker, and Ed Oliver. So this was the practice where guys started to get after it a little bit. Was it because it's the first day in full pads? Was it because it's the first day where it wasn't 65 and rainy? It was actually summer out there today, much to the appreciation of most of us who stood in it today. But here's what happened with the fights. There were 3 in particular. The first one was TJ Parker. Didn't see who was on the offensive side of it, but TJ Parker threw the first official punch of camp. The big one was a Dalton Kincaid play where he was actually being covered pretty tight by Davison Igbinosun. Kincaid goes to the ground, gets back up, and Caleb Alarm-Zor, just kind of driving on the play, throws a 2-hand, forehand shiver way after he should have been. It was without a doubt over the line of what should be happening in this kind of play. And that started the big fricas. Cole Bishop ended up on the ground rolling over.
Did he? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I got a good angle on that. He was, I don't know how he got in, but he was kind of like on the short end of the avalanche, but was certainly involved. And then the third one was on the sideline. Didn't see much who was a part of that one. That one was probably the least notable of the day. So those were the fricases and the combatants. And after the practice, we talked to a lot of guys involved. We got Alarm-Zor's side of his thing with Dalton Kincaid, why he hit late, what he was doing on the play. And then the star of the whole deal is Anderson, because whenever fights happen, Alec Anderson's the guy you want to talk to. And he was involved on the Alarm-Zor v. Kincaid bout. So here was the assessment from everybody on all the fights and things that happened during day 5 of practice.
I was just running to the ball. People were saying he already went down. I didn't see him go down. I was like in my drop, running to the ball. I just saw him spin. I thought he was still up, so I just hit him.
It was a great time. Shout out to the rookie linebacker Caleb. So,
You enjoyed him.
Oh, I enjoyed. Well, I didn't enjoy him, hitting our guy after the whistle, but I enjoyed punching him in the face a couple times and choking him out. So that's always enjoyable.
It's pros and cons of it. You never want. Dalton's my boy, so you never want to see that happen. He's important in the offense. So you want to take care of him, but the flip side of it, I don't mind seeing a little piss and vinegar coming out of the rookies.
And those fans come on everybody, turn it up a notch. And at the end of the day, I love the physicality that we bring in as a team. We just got to channel it in the right direction.
It was great. I love it. It gets my testosterone up these days. Really gets the blood pumping, everything flowing.
I want to establish myself as a hard-nosed football player. Just going to keep going. Sometimes emotion get the best out of everybody. So, you just got to handle that, squash that away, and then keep going.
It sucks once you get on the ground, and then you're tired, and then everybody kind of is laying on you and feels like you're being suffocated, and then you got to get up and do another play. So you're like, man, maybe fighting wasn't the best idea, but you got to do it sometimes.
Whether you have to do it or not, it's definitely something that happens sometimes at camp, at every camp. Now, Anderson went on to talk about it. I asked him a question. I said, hey, how much of this is because this team under Joe Brady, we've heard about it all in the offseason, this is going to be a team that has more of an edge to it. And there was plenty of edge to give you 1,000 paper cuts today on the field. Anderson said, look, some of it is about guys just being ready to thump, right? This was the first time they did full pads throughout the whole practice, going back to last January. He also said that we do feel like we have something to prove, that this is a different Bills team. I've got a lot of thoughts. You've got a lot of thoughts. I think the thing I want to start with, the discussion I want to have is, what does this say about the Joe Brady team as a whole, all the fights of this practice today?
I think, to your point, it was very much a first full practice in full pads, full go. So, I feel like you're getting antsy, wanting to hit each other. At the same time, I think it just shows this is just a team that's ready to play more aggressive football. Whether or not, there was a cheap shot and some of the things that went on were even in the realm of aggressive football, maybe just like I said, a cheap shot. I think it's just a team that is just ready to hit each other and show what they've been waiting for this offseason. I don't know if I think it is a encompassing of the new Joe Brady era, just because I think it was day 1. So, if this continues and this is a trend through the next, 2 days of camp, then maybe we could say, okay, this might be how this team operates. But it is, I guess, I mean, it's fun to see how, because I don't remember really a day of fights one after another last year at camp for sure. So whether or not it's a new head coach or it's just the sun's out and we have full pads on and we're going to go crazy and Alec Anderson is Alec Anderson, who knows? But I mean, it's football. So
I like how you ended that with, here are a number of things that could be factors that are not connected to any sort of overarching conclusion, just things that went practical explanations for what happened today. To add to that, number one, what Caleb Alarms-Orr did was wrong. It was way after the whistle. It was way out of bounds for a practice setting on a teammate. Number two, it's also a thing that happens in every single camp, on every single team, in every single year. There's going to be a guy that's going to do that. So by itself, it's not an indication of anything great or bad. Number three, to your point about day one of pads, this is also day 5 of training camp ever under Joe Brady. Yeah. So sitting here and saying, this is what the Joe Brady camp is going to be like, or this is good, or this is a different team, nobody knows. We're in day 5. Drawing a conclusion from that is like reading the first page of the Odyssey and thinking, oh, this is a terrible book. So we have a lot more to discover about what this is. All that said, to your point about, I don't remember there being this at last year's camp, neither do I. It does happen. It has happened occasionally at a Sean McDermott camp where you get fight after fight. When it doesn't happen is the first day of camp. Usually you get the big fight day after it's been 85 for an entire week and guys have been beating each other up over and over. This is the first time we've had full pad 11 on 11. Keep in mind that teams don't usually do it during the season. You're probably going back to like during the bye week last year. They haven't done this since. Yeah. So for there to be fight after fight after fight on day 1 of full pads, that to me does certainly maybe raise, I don't want to say red flags, but there are flags being raised about, wow, this team is different. Whether it's good or bad, I think is the next part of the discussion. And now me and Carl Jones got into it on the sideline. We had a good debate today. And Carl, coming from a defensive side, he played defense in college and is always will kind of lean that way. His point was that I like having guys who are aggressive. And some of the Bills talked about that too. Bradley Chubb, he said, we didn't include it in the sound you heard, but he said, if you want to have a sick'em guy or a pullback guy, you'd rather have a guy, I think he said sick'em, but what he meant is you'd rather have guys you're pulling back than guys you have to kind of push to go out and fight. And I get that point of view. My point of view is that you can have a group of aggressive guys, you can have a group of guys who are not aggressive. I don't care. They're just different types of players. Both can work, both might not work. And it does seem like the Bills are pushing more towards the aggressive side based on what we saw in this practice.
Yeah, I want to go back to us talking about this didn't really happen last year. A lot of these fights today were rookies were involved in most of them. I mean, it was TJ Parker was in the one.
Alarms-Orr in the second one.
And then Jude Bowery was in the mix, and we saw he was in the middle of something.
He was being pulled away from the third one. I don't know how much he dictated it. I do vaguely remember Jalen Kilgore being a part of that too. So your point does hold up here.
I think maybe it's even not even a Joe Brady testament of his coaching and the tone of this team, but maybe just his rookie class is a little bit more of an aggressive and kind of, hard edge rookie class. I mean, we kind of seen that in some of these guys that they drafted as being these later round picks that kind of have to, be these, like set the tone in some way. And I feel like maybe we saw that today. I do think the Alarms-Orr hit was late, but I do also think that when you're a rookie, you're not going to want to take a cheap shot, especially on a guy like Dalton Kincaid, who's been here and is a starter, but you also kind of want to set the tone. And I think Alarms-Orr in the interviews that, he did with Caleb Carr the other day and what we have been talking about, he is a guy that knows the type of player he is, and he's unapologetic when it comes to that. And even the interview after the fight, he's like, you know what, this is football. This is who I am. I went after the ball. So I think it's not you never want to encourage those things when it comes to rookies. But I think in terms of him, specifically in that fight, that was kind of the biggest one of the day. I think it was just more of that's the type of player he is he's just going to go after it.
Overall, it's August 4th. Fights happen. This is training camp. This is how it goes. It is notable the number of fights we had early in the first camp for a new head coach. Now, if Joe Brady has 3 more weeks of camp and then 3 more camps and hardly any of this stuff happens, then it'll just be one day. It only becomes a thing if we're getting to like 2 weeks from now and wow, this is like the 7th day of 8 where there's fights at camp, then maybe you think about it being a problem. For today, I think your point about the rookies is an excellent one. For now, this is young guys trying to set a tone.
I mean, this is the first time they've had pads on in the NFL.
For
this
sure.
is,
it's a good point.
They're just maybe even more excited than the guys that put their pads up in January. So, I mean, yes, it could be concerning down the line, but I think right now it's football.
It's just one day.
Just one day.
All right, let's talk about the one day too, the non-fight stuff. And one of the main drills that you and I both watched today was pass catcher one-on-one, which number one, the format of this was interesting. Normally when teams do this in a practice, you have the receivers and the corners and the safeties go in one drill, and then the running backs and the linebackers and the tight ends go in another drill. The Bills today put them together and did like starters and lower guys in the depth chart, which is great for us because we spent all of our time watching the more elite players. So thoughts about that? Number one, the first thing I want to talk about is Keon Coleman and Max Hairston, who only went against each other. I didn't see either guy go against anyone else. All 4 matchups, and I think there were 4, were basically like grab fests. They were just wrestling matches. And I thought Max Hairston really held his own pretty well against a bigger guy in Keon Coleman. I think a smaller guy in Hairston being able to at least be competitive is a good thing. And then on the flip side, Coleman caught passes on all 4. Now, none of them were 50-yard touchdowns. They were like 6 yards in a cloud of dust. But he did win all 4 reps. And I think for Coleman to face what I thought was pretty reasonable physical coverage and win, I thought that was good for him. So it was the rare situation where I think you had a drill, and I felt pretty decent about both sides of it.
Yeah, I think maybe you're more on the Max Hairston. Not that I think Max Hairston did anything wrong in that drill because, like you said, Keon Coleman is significantly a bigger of a receiver. But I kind of like the Keon Coleman aspect of just we haven't seen much of him this camp. I haven't even really I don't know if I've seen one-on-ones. I don't know how many times they've even
This
done
is the first time I've seen them do it. Yeah,
they've done it this camp. So to even just see him, win 100% of the ones he's up against, like we've said before, this drill favors the receivers in that way, and Keon Coleman is a bigger guy than Hairston. But just to see him kind of get in the groove of, using his size to his advantage and being that guy that can make those plays, whether it's, not that deep ball guy that was drafted to be a few years ago. So I think it was a positive for both, but I especially see this as a positive for Keon.
Also in this drill, and actually going back to what you said a minute ago about, just to further explain it, when you have receiver versus defensive back one-on-ones, the receiver gets to use the entirety of the field, which is not how real football is played. It's played, whether you're playing zone or man, there are guys who can help. So if a receiver runs away from you, there's someone they're going to. So that's why this drill very heavily leans towards the offensive side of the ball. Another young defensive back, Davison Igbinosun, who you talked to today, we're going to hear from him in a little bit. We saw a little bit of what he's starting to become here early in camp, in that, we said this yesterday, if he gets someone in his kitchen to where he can be physical and attack, good chance he's going to win. And he did that a couple of times today. On the flip side, there were a couple plays in these one-on-ones where he just missed the jam. And not only did he lose, he's like chasing air from 3 yards behind. This is kind of the roller coaster ride we're getting with the Bills rookie.
Yeah, it seems like we are kind of on like a sliding scale, and like he's on one end or the other. There's really no in between with him, especially on this drill, the one-on-ones. And like you said, the ones that he was beat on, it was beat pretty bad, and it wasn't like it was a DJ Moore or a Khalil Shakir. I mean, some of them were fifth string guys too. So that's obviously concerning. But then when you see him kind of in his wheelhouse of the things that he does well, he does them well. And I think it just goes back to the fact that we've seen Hairston getting those corner 2 reps a lot more than him, and I think those are the things that he has to improve on to work his way up into that spot.
By the way, just thought of this. A week ago, we were talking about Igbinosun versus Hairston. Ooh, that might be close. Igbinosun might steal the job. And everything we've seen since has been Hairston being fine enough to not necessarily cement the job, but certainly hold on to the number 1 spot right now. And Igbinosun offering enough questions to where he's not really pushing Hairston almost at all.
Yeah, I think skill-wise, I think they're not close skill-wise. Igbinosun still has some catching up to do to Hairston. But I think just in terms of what the Bills have put forth, it is clear that Hairston is the favorite. So even skill-wise, if it was more split reps and it was kind of they're switching on and off a lot more, I would feel like it's closer, because I feel like their skill level isn't drastically different. I just think it's what the Bills are kind of pushing at this point. Like we said, we feel like it's Hairston's spot to lose.
And Hairston is getting to the point where I feel okay-ish with him as the number 2 corner. I mean, he's the number 2 corner. He doesn't have to be a star. I know he's a first-round pick, but if he's fine and you have Christian Benford on the other side who's much better than fine, I'm okay with that in terms of who my 2 corners are.
Yeah. Hairston he's sufficient. I think that's
a great word.
Just sufficient right now, and to fill that spot, I think he'll be fine, but there's definitely things that he can improve on. And IGB, same for him. I mean, to slide up and potentially get some of those reps or get some of those snaps, there's things for him to improve on as well.
A couple other guys that kind of stood out in different directions. Skylar Bell had some good releases, got off the ball well, He did have one where he got downfield and then dropped the pass down the field. But overall, I liked him in this drill. Connie Walker, the undrafted free agent that people are talking about a lot, the defensive back, was good again in this drill. And then Geno Stone stood out to you, but not in a good way.
Geno Stone hasn't really impressed me the last few days. We know that C.J. Gardner-Johnson out with injury, so DeMar Hamlin and Geno Stone have been kind of taking those reps. He seems like he's really behind. He seems just not up to speed really to step in and fill that role. I mean, DeMar Hamlin looks better than him, but we're also talking about DeMar Hamlin, who we didn't even know would be on the team. Like we were like, is he even going to get a spot on the 53-man roster last year? So Geno Stone is definitely a concern if the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury, kind of sticks around, even though it kind of seems like it's moving in the right direction.
He lost twice in one-on-ones today to Kaleki Latu, who's probably a long shot to make the team, the tight end. And he has looked like a backup. And we talked about him before camp started as, well, he's a good backup. Mm-hmm. Right now, he just looks like a backup and a guy that, like, if you have to play him, you can play him, but he's not a guy you really want on the field. Again, we're still early in camp. The other, outside of the one-on-ones, the other small note from practice today, Fedarian Mathis was in at defensive tackle as the first guy in, like the first rep with the first team, almost exclusively today. It might have been exclusively. I saw him do it a lot yesterday. Now, Deion Walker hasn't practiced. He said today he's got an elbow injury. He's going to have a brace and be back pretty soon. But Fedarian Mathis was on the bubble to even make the team. And right now he looks locked into, at worst, the number 2 nose tackle and maybe the number 1 if the Bills want to use Walker more on the outside.
Yeah, that was even a name when you said Fedarian Mathis. I kind of had like the wheels were turning of like the last time I even heard us talk about him. I mean, if he's earned the spot, okay. If it's kind of, Deion Walker injury, things are sliding around. But it's also, it's not concerning, but it's just kind of a big, like, this was not expected to happen. I'm kind of intrigued to see where this goes.
It's not concerning. I mean, he can play. He's not my first choice going into the season. But again, the Bills didn't really have a first choice. This is why, going back to the draft, a lot of us thought that they might take Caden McDonald with an early pick. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Carter was kind of nominally the guy we thought could do that. It could still be Deion Walker. I mean, he's the one who's most built for it physically. He just, last year, the game he showed us wasn't, I'm going to be a run stopper on first and second down. My book on Mathis, from watching him last year on film, he has the athleticism to make plays. He can be quick, get off the ball, get in the backfield. The thing that I noticed with him last year was he would get off a block and get in a position to make a play and then not know what to do. Like, just couldn't make the tackle, couldn't stabilize himself to be in the right position to finish the play off. So he'd make like the first half of the play and not the second. So perhaps a little bit of coaching up, maybe some experience makes a difference. There is some ground to work with here to make him into an impact kind of defensive tackle.
It's really interesting to me because I feel like this D-line it could be a really good defensive line. I mean, you have Ed Oliver, you have Deion Walker, Bradley Chubb's on the outside. You have like so many pieces, but then things like Fedarian Mathis could be the guy that's starting or being, second guy up. And it's like, okay, maybe we're going in the opposite direction. Not like you said, he's not a bad player. He is filling that role, but it's just, there's such I'm going to use sliding scale again of like what this D line is actually going to be come week 1.
Well, maybe also a comment on what the guys we expect to be good are not doing so far, too. All right, now, the highlight of practice today, which I'm sure everybody has seen or heard about right now, was the DJ Moore 50-yard or so touchdown catch from Josh Allen between multiple defensive backs, 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. It was a heck of a play. He had to also survive a physical contest by Hairston at the very end of the play. This was everything that you want out of a number 1 receiver. And we've seen, I think, just about everything people would expect or want out of a number 1 receiver so far. After the practice today, Khalil Shakir was just as impressed as everybody else.
Dude, honestly, man, their connection has been unreal. Like, it's been, like, when you watch stuff like that, it just feels fake, like how beautiful that play was. I mean, DJ was just gliding. All 3 DBs are kind of like, looks like they're really straining to get there, and DJ's kind of just chilling. The ball, I mean, absolutely unreal. Dropped it right in the breadbasket, and DJ to finish that play. Man, it's a beautiful thing to see, the connection there, and every single day, not just that catch. Obviously, that probably was the best one, but just the stuff they've done every single day and the growth that's came within that is going to help us win games for sure.
And as Khalil Shakir pointed out, it wasn't just a DJ Moore play. Josh Allen made a pretty good throw on it, too. I'm getting to a point here where I start to wonder if maybe DJ Moore might be not just good, above average, but the Bills might get potentially a pretty high-end result. And I don't know, again, we're so early in camp, I don't know, is this just the Bills secondary may not be that good, or is DJ Moore really, really going to be a kind of a game changer for this offense?
I think it might be a little bit of a mix of both, but
Probably.
I think DJ Moore he looks good. I mean, I think I said last week, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It feels too good to be true, but he hasn't really disproven that yet. I mean, today was literally textbook contested deep ball. Like, it was just everything you want to see from Josh Allen to someone who hasn't been on this team this is new to this team for the last few months. So it was a beautiful play. Khalil Shakir said it. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And it's the kind of thing that has you thinking that, like, for example, I don't think we had DJ Moore and Stephon Diggs circa 2021 in the same thought. That was a Stephon Diggs 2021 type play. That was he's not just the best on this team, he's one of the best in the league type plays. Now, look, we've talked about in the NFL, you aren't the best based on a few plays here and there. The best players are the guys who make it all the time. And we haven't seen a lot of this particular elite play from DJ Moore. We've seen a lot, and DJ Moore, I think we've kind of talked about him as he's not ridiculous in any one area, but he's like an 8 out of 10 in everything. Yeah. This was a 10 out of 10 play. Yeah. Are we going to get more of these? I don't know. But seeing this and saying, okay, that's in the bag now. Mm-hmm. Now let's see if you can do it multiple times, and you really get Bills fans excited.
Yeah, I have to say, speaking of Bills fans, I texted Caleb as soon as it happened. I was like, you just missed this beautiful play. You would have loved it. It was right to DJ Moore. It contested cat. Like, you would have loved it. He was like, dang, I missed it. Sun's out, and I missed that play.
Bad day for Caleb to not be at camp.
For Caleb.
All right, let's talk about your interview with Davison Igbinosun, the rookie corner, who has been up and down at camp, but he was fairly revealing in terms of his approach to what he wants to get out of this first camp in the NFL.
Yeah, we talked about he's obviously fighting for that corner 2 spot. He was a 2nd-round pick for the Bills. Talked to him about how his college experience is kind of translated here and what he really worked on to kind of be that elite corner that could eventually make his way up into being a real impact player for this team.
Now, when it comes to this defensive scheme, obviously it's new for the Bills. How do you feel like you fit in? What are your strengths that, maybe help this new scheme?
I would say, like, it's new for the Bills, but like I've ran similar defenses in college because at Ohio State we ran a very NFL-style defense. So I feel like I know a lot of the defense. It transcends from college to the NFL, and I would say it's a very aggressive man coverage type of defense, press man. And like I think that's my skill set, like aggressive physical corners, and I think that's my billing.
That physicality was something that coming into the draft, a lot of people said you were a very physical corner. Obviously, the penalties were a part of that. Do you feel like you've grown in that aspect of your game and maybe improved as you've gotten to the pro level?
I think I did. Like I would say, even last year, my senior year in college, I reduced the penalties by a lot, and I would say like that's not the narrative that I want to have tagged on me. So that was the whole point of me going back to college for another year. And I would just say like I am physical corner, but kind of need physical corners in this kind of defense. And a lot of corners in NFL, they don't like to tackle, but like I love it.
It's really interesting. I think the part that stands out to both of us is the reason he went back for his senior year is because of that, penalties and trying to decrease that. And every time the draft comes around, there's always guys that are, debating if they're going to declare for the draft or not and what they're going to do and what those reasons are. But I've never really heard someone, I wanted to decrease my penalties or I wanted to work on this very specific part of my game. It's normally like, what does the draft class look like? And, who's out there and what's available. So I thought that was a really interesting part. And just like we said, a guy that's fighting for that spot, he kind of brings a different piece to this Jim Leonhard defense that I think in the long run will probably, help elevate his game.
To be fair, I would think that the process for Igbinosun 2 years ago or in the previous draft was, hey, I want to go in round X. And someone says, you're not going to go in that round. And he says, why? Yeah. And they say, penalties. So he says, okay, let me go fix that. Yeah. Regardless, here's the important part. He went back to school and succeeded. Yeah. He did take those penalties way down from a junior year that was kind of disturbing. Now, there have been no refs at camp so far. There were no refs in one-on-ones today, which, frankly, that drill needed refs because, there was more grabbing than in a SummerSlam edition right there. So we will see where he's at when actual flags start to fly. But early on in camp, there's been enough good that I think at the very least has justified the Bills adding him to the team.
Yeah, I think he's promising. I think it's kind of where it leaves it is I can see him kind of ascending up and getting better as he learns. It makes a transition from the NFL. I mean, it's not easy to become a pro player. You're not going to do it overnight. So I think he understands that too from what I heard from him. So I think he's making that transition, and it seems like I said, promising that he's going to get there.
How comfortable in the interview? A guy who hasn't done a lot of NFL interviews. He went to Ohio State, so I'm sure he's talked to the media before. But give me your sense of kind of the guy after you talked to him for a long time.
I mean, he was very open about just what he wanted to, do this year. And then he got a lot more comfortable as we kind of get into the personality stuff. I learned a lot about who he is and his thoughts on Buffalo and just a lot of fun things like that. So he kind of opened up as it went on. But I mean, he seems like a guy that, knows why he's here, knows what he wants to do. And I actually asked him too, I was like, do you feel doubted at all? And he was like, yeah, I felt doubted my whole life, but I've kind of, have this sense of motivation. And I was like, have you ever thought that, you would make it to the NFL? And he was like, I always knew I was going to make it to the NFL. I always had this, if I told my younger self this, I always knew that I would get here. So he seems, he knows where he's at. He knows that he needs to improve. So he was cool to talk to.
Check more on that interview at rochesterfirst.com. Also on BKO Nightly on Instagram and Rachel Liber Instagram, TikTok, wherever you find your favorite social media platform. All right. Every day we hand out our turkey burgers. This is the best from camp today. I will go first today. Number one for me, Christian Benford. We haven't talked about how good he is enough, but he had a really good practice today. Locked up DJ Moore a couple times in the one-on-one drills today. Had another good one versus Josh Palmer in that. Also had a good 7-on-7 rep against DJ Moore. One of his best practices, maybe his best so far. He looked like a number one corner, even with the superstar DJ Moore on the other side of the line a couple times today.
Yeah, I'm going to give my first turkey burger to Josh Allen, but only for the DJ Moore pass, because I feel like we're talking about the DJ Moore catch in the deep ball. So I'm going to give it to Josh Allen because it was literally, like Khalil Shakir said, breadbasket right there. So I'm going to give it to Josh Allen.
You don't give a turkey burger to the starting quarterback too often. I totally agree.
I don't even think we have that.
But it's Josh Allen. I mean, if we really
you're right.
if we really honestly did this straightforward,
it would be
it'd be every day.
We have DJ Moore every day, so that's why I'm kind of switching it up. I feel like DJ Moore has been every single day.
That's true.
So.
He probably should get one today.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I'm like, we'll give it to Josh Allen. It was like a combined effort.
That's a fair one. Okay. My second one today, Mecole Hardman, a guy who really has not had a great camp. It's been very uneven. And today kind of was emblematic of that because he was open all day long. He whooped D. Alford multiple times in the one-on-ones. He got open deep in a team drill, and it felt like every time he was open, the quarterback wasn't even close to him, going back to the backup quarterback struggles, which we will not get into today. But for Mecole Hardman doing his job, he gets a turkey burger from me.
My next turkey burger, we already talked about this. I'm going to give it to Keon Coleman, which I didn't think I'd be saying that on this podcast in this training camp. But we're going to give it to Keon Coleman. He, like I said, on the one-on-ones, he just looked comfortable. He knew what he was doing out there against Harrison. Could give one to Harrison too, but I mean, I liked what I saw from Keon today, and he gets my second one.
Keon did win those reps, even though I think Harrison I'm giving credit for kind of on a curve. I'm saying based on how big he is and how big Keon Coleman is, seeing Max Hairston be competitive there, I think is good. That's also based on what we've seen from him before, which is hardly anything. Yeah. So Keon Coleman was the winner of those reps. I just thought Hairston was good enough in them to be encouraging for him long-term. My last turkey burger, Khalil Shakir, who has been very dependable. I think you want to look at receivers as a whole. DJ Moore is the star. Khalil Shakir, you could set your watch to, and everybody else is kind of eh. Shakir had one of those days today. Now, Christian Benford was on DJ Moore a lot in one-on-ones, so Shakir got the non-Benford, and Max Harrison was on Keon. So Shakir was dealing with whatever else is out there, and he rolled. He was really dominant. So based on that performance in one-on-ones, I give him a turkey burger today. You're all good, right?
I'm all good.
All right. Last thing for today, the autograph highlight. Josh Allen today, after doing some interviews, went to meet the Reed Ferguson clan. This is a group of kids. It's Reed Ferguson, the Bills long snapper, 3 of his kids. There's a couple cousins in there. There's some kids of friends. And I love Josh. I can't tell who's having more fun here, whether it's Josh Allen or the kids. And look, Josh is always phenomenal in autographs. This is a good example of that. He just knows how to handle himself, knows how to do the right thing. And again, look at the smiles. Everybody's having a good time there. This is Josh Allen just about every single day when it comes to the autographs at St. John Fisher. As I told someone who's a friend of mine who was at camp today, I'm like, it's the most wholesome part of my job, watching Josh Allen sign autographs.
Yeah, and he never does it wrong, ever. He does it right every single time.
So do we here on Bill's Camp Day Recap. That's going to be it for this edition on day number 5 here. As always, you can find this show on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are back again on Thursday. No practice on Wednesday. We've got practice number 6 coming up after that. Thanks very much for watching. For Rachel Liebert, I'm Thad Brown. We'll see you again in a couple days.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.